So welcome to the webinar. My name's Trevor Monaghan. I'm one of the directors at Safety Hero. Thanks for everybody on the webinar today. This webinar is all about, the basics about Safety Hero, how it is a one-stop shop workplace health and safety system, and today specifically is for safety consultants and introducers. We do have a business model where we do rely on the expert knowledge and assistance of these safety consultants and solicitors and the like, and we really appreciate all you being on the call today. Just a quick rundown before we get into the software. The key people involved in the business, which is very important because everybody asks, and it's good to know who's behind the software. We've got Aaron Robinson, who's actually on the call today. He'll show you a run-through of the software, so you get to see exactly how it works, click around a few different areas and do a couple of case studies. And Aaron is a software architect. He's worked for a very large multinational billion-dollar company as, I guess, a project manager and software engineer. Specifically in the safety space. We also work on other software projects as well as the safety space, but that's actually his specialty, so this is probably our most fleshed out, ready to go product out of all the ones we have. Sam Roberts is our other director. He is a solicitor, owns his own legal firm as well as being a director in this business, which is particularly important for this software program, obviously, because it is very legal driven. The benefit of having Sam involved is that he can go through with a fine-tooth comb all the details of the WHS legislation, and the real benefit of that is that our software caters for every component of data capture and functionality that we think the legislation requires. And myself, I'm Trevor Monaghan. I'm a chartered accountant, predominantly business consulting and business valuer, and I've supported this business because I have a lot of clients that I work with that have got safety issues, and everybody seems to be using spreadsheets or handwritten books and that kind of stuff. So, my feedback to them has always been that we need to automate these things and show good audit trails. So it's really been a very tight fit between what I was trying to achieve with my clients and what the other directors of Safety Hero are trying to achieve. So let's get straight into the presentation. We will go through basically a bit of an opening about what does Safety Hero do, what's it trying to achieve. We'll then show you specifically what the software does. At the end, we'll go through the partnership, what we call the Alliance Partner Benefits Program. So for Alliance Partners and introducers, exactly what does that mean? Every software product has got a different scheme, a different way of remunerating people for assisting us. We'll go through exactly what's involved in ours, so keep on the line for that. And then we'll have questions at the end if we've got time. So this is a 30-minute webinar. We'll try to keep within that. Well, we definitely will. If we end early, we will. If we go right to the time, that's fine too. So let's get moving. Feel free, during the process, you want to ask a question in your question section on your panel, which should be on the right of your screen. You should be able to type a question in there. If any questions come up during the process that we think is relevant to everybody, we might just answer those questions live. If it's something a bit private, we might answer that after the call. So let's get into it. So Safety Hero, and this is basically encapsulates our sort of vision behind the software, why it exists. Imagine if there was a single place to manage all your safety records in the cloud. So that's really what it all comes back to. It's okay, we've got our spreadsheets, we've got our handwritten records. Some businesses don't even have that. Imagine if that was all in one place and it was in the cloud so we could share it. Imagine if your team could access the program in real time on any computer or device, and we're not talking about some funky little new app for $5 in the App Store. We're talking about a real robust system that could be actually shared in real time anywhere in the world on any internet-capable device with a browser. Imagine if the program maintained detailed records to comply with health and safety laws. So again, we've made sure that it covers everything that the law requires. It's all about how you use it, though. Imagine if there was no upfront purchase cost and a flat monthly investment. Again, we found that from the feedback from people using software and those kind of things, talking to consultants and software companies, that there seems to be usually sort of a $5,000 to $10,000 entry fee into any of these programs, any of the decent ones. And we've tried to basically build the program so that there is no entry fee, there's no actual IT required in the actual implementation. It's more of a safety consultant implementation, so we'll talk about that later. Imagine if it was fully scalable and could easily manage from 1 to thousands of staff. So, we're still testing the limits of the software now. We haven't come to the point yet where it slows down or anything based on number of team members. There is no limit. So, in theory, we can have thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of staff. Imagine if you could manage multiple sites, not just your own, but also your customers. So very important for businesses that need to manage what their contractors are up to. Imagine if you could manage your contractors and even give them limited access. So sometimes you might want a contractor to log in and do something like a site inspection, or at least log that they're at a particular site. That kind of stuff can go in there. Something that a lot of the programs don't seem to offer that we've been asked to include, which we have, is imagine if you could manage your equipment. And then you can actually manage equipment maintenance, have histories of maintenance, link equipment to incidents and hazards and those kinds of things. Imagine if you can instantly notify relevant people. So there's a notification module where you can set up for different things who gets to find out instantly about incidents or hazards or anything like that. And imagine if users could instantly upload relevant images from a smartphone on site. Huge benefit where with things like iPhones these days, someone could take a photo of a hazard or of an incident that's just happened or an injury, and in real time upload that through the web interface straight from the device, and then notifications can go around to the relevant directors or consultants, and they can actually see pictures, they can see notes in real time, do something about it. And then obviously from a consultant's point of view, imagine if you could plan and implement your audit tasks within the program. So we definitely encourage people to include their consultants and external advisors into the actual usage of the program and actually put their tasks in there. In that way, we're sort of locking in the work of the external consultants. So actually your own client is basically telling you it's time for you to come on and do something, and you're actually receiving notifications out of the software. So we're actually driving it so it's not an afterthought, it's actually part of the program. And as I said there, external safety consultants can get real-time live access if the client wants. So basically summing up again, improve legal compliance and reduce injuries in your business. So we do have a question there, and the question that we've got, it's relevant, what legislation jurisdiction is covered. I'm not a lawyer, but our lawyers tell us that it's made in a way that covers all jurisdictions. The specifics of each jurisdiction in terms of exactly what kind of documentation is required, that's going to change. But as you'll see as we go along, we actually, part of the fundamental business model that we've got is that we're not trying to replace safety consultants. We are not trying to give people policies and procedures. Now, we could go down that path and we could issue people, a cheap $100 template for this or that, which others are doing, and our thing with that is we're not experts on safety. We're not legal advisors at the ground level, and we're definitely not the people that write the policies and procedures. So the software allows you to implement your current safety policies, procedures, checklists, or your compliance documents that you might have currently floating around in a separate system or just sitting in a Dropbox or on your server. So that, to answer that question, it's got the facility to use to cover any legislation, but what's important is how you implement your own policies and procedures within the system. So I hope that makes sense. We've built this system so that you don't have to do it our way. You do it your way and use our system to do that. And so the cost of this kind of system at the moment, and these costs are subject to change. These are what we call probably the foundation pricing, which is probably going to go up at some point in the future, but $9.90 including GST per month for up to 50 users. That's not per user, that's for everybody. And a user is whatever you want to use it to be. We suggest that every active employee is a user in the system. If you do that, then employees can log in and they can potentially log their work activities, identify hazards and incidents. If you don't have everybody as an employee, it just means that they need to pass on this information to someone that is a user. So you're sort of breaking that instant chain of command. So we'd recommend against that, but we're definitely not going to stop people doing that. If we've got a business with 55 staff and they want to get into that price level and they make sure 5 don't get logins, well, so be it. We're not going to police that. We don't recommend it though, obviously. And up to 500 users, $19.80. So when you look at that cost compared to some of the other things on the market, obviously there's no comparison. And this is a bit of our tagline we seem to be using all the time is, imagine if you just kept using the same old spreadsheets or patchwork system instead. So we keep coming back to that because people seem to think that their spreadsheet's the system. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, we're going to actually show you the software, and we're going to run through some basic examples. It's really important that safety consultants and others on the call see the software before they start recommending it, because you need to know what it does, and this is the time to ask questions. Probably wait till the end because we're going to cover a few things and they might be answered as we go through. But so I'm going to introduce Aaron Robinson. I'm going to open up his microphone so that you can hear him talk. Give me a second with this. Aaron, are you there?
Yes, I am, yes.
Fantastic. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hand control over to Aaron. We're going to see his screen. He's going to take us through a few examples for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then we're going to come back and do a wrap up and talk about the benefits. So just changing presenter now.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to give a demonstration on basically a particular scenario. Now, this scenario is, if you imagine that the client is a particular manufacturing company, and they've got a new person coming on site from an external contracting company. So what we're going to do is we're going to add that person in to the system. We're going to give them an appropriate qualification relevant to their job. Then we're going to sign them in, give them some attendance data, and then what we're going to do is have that person identify a particular hazard that they see on site. After that hazard's been identified, later down the track, we're going to have an incident which occurs on site, and we're going to tie that incident into that particular hazard. And then what we're going to do is we're going to share that incident with that company's safety consultant. So what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to give this is not a teaching process, this is not a how to use the system, so I'm not going to go through every particular area that we cover. I'm just going to try and cover that particular areas that just relate to that scenario. So this is the login screen here. Now when I first log in, I'm just going to be led to the dashboard right on the front. Now this dashboard is relevant to a particular environment. This dashboard at the moment, I'll wait till it loads, but only can see the recent attendance, recent training records, and then we've got 3 kinds of charts on the side which indicate the different incidents by classification, etc. So what I'm going to do is on my main menu here, I can either use the menu on the left or I can use the main menu as it comes up there on the screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the people that are currently in the system, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new person to the system. I'm not going to detail everything about this particular person, but this person is going to be named Adrian Rogers. So just putting in these particular details of when this person was born. Just there's some minimum mandatory fields. And I'm also going to upload a photo. So that's the minimum requirements that I need to add that person, this person. What I'm going to do though is make sure that I put his particular occupation in. So I'm going to say that this person's an electrician and this person works for a company called Construction Contractors. So the occupation that he's going to be doing is an electrician. And that's the bare minimum that I'm going to do to make sure that I can use this person. Now you can see that within the grid result here, this person is available here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just give a qualification to this person, which is the Diploma of Agribusiness Management. So you can see under the person there's a qualifications area. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to find that particular qualification. Oh, helps if I spell it right. So here's my Advanced Diploma of Agribusiness Management. I'm going to say which registered training organisation gave that to this person. And we've got one that we use internally called 55 Steps. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to also upload the certificate against this person. Now you can see that the name of the qualification comes up next to that certificate area there. So all I have to do in order to be able to view that certificate is just open it. So that certificate's basically available anytime for anybody to be able to see that. Certificates against any qualification or induction or familiarisation that somebody has, you can put associated documentation next to that. So now that person has the appropriate certificate, what I'm going to just quickly do is show you if, for example, I want to look up the master qualification list within the system. We've got several thousand qualifications already listed within the system that we can assign to anybody. Now what I can do is specifically find that record. So at the moment I've got the qualification open called Advanced Diploma of Agribusiness Management, and I can say, show me everybody that currently has this qualification. Now you can see that this person, Adrian Rogers, has this qualification, and that's the one that I've just given to him. So I can open it up from here and see that specific record as well. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to that person, and I'm just going to sign them into sign them onto work. So I click on the attendance tab for that person and I add the new record. So I say the location that this person's going to work. I can find a supervisor at the time, whatever details we want to put for this particular person, the work activity they're going to be performing. So if this person's going to be welding, so that person's basically signed in now. Okay, so now that that person's basically been entered in the system, we obviously don't need to enter that person, any details about that person in relation to qualifications once that initial setup's done, with the exception of attendance that we could manually do or integrate into some other attendance system. But now that this person's working on site, what's happened is he's identified a particular hazard that's on site. So if we go to our hazards in the system, we can add a new record. Now what we do is we say that this hazard type is slippery area. The location of the hazard is over on the in the car park. The likelihood of occurring is quite high. The hazard of the hazard is it's currently just been identified, and we say who reported this hazard. So this hazard was reported by Adrian Rogers. And the person that it was reported to was the boss. So what we want to do is we want to give details of the hazard. There is a dangerous puddle in the car park. Now what I want to do is I want to upload a photo of that hazard. Now you can see that this hazard here, if I click on that image, it'll open up that specific image and I can say, well, here's the deep puddle that I've got. So what I can also do for this hazard, because I've identified it, is I can specify what actions are required in order to be able to remedy that hazard. And any other further attachments in relation to that hazard. But I'm not going to do that for the time being. So you can see that they've got this hazard being put into the area. Now basically what happens is we can go and action this. People will be notified of that particular hazard and appropriate measures would be put in place. But what's going to happen is we're going to say later down the track, a couple of months down the track or whatever, there's been an incident which has occurred on site that relates to this hazard. Now, the incident classification is it's a lost time injury, and the incident type was a slip. The location was in the car park. We spill the details of when it was reported, who it was reported by, who it was reported to. But the key thing here is to tie it into that specific hazard. So you can see that there's an incident which is created right now, which has been reported here and reported to these various people. But what we want to do is we want to tie that into the hazard that occurred on site. And you can see that there's some information relating to that hazard. Alternatively, we can open up that specific hazard later on in the future. So that's basically all I'm going to do. Just fill out some other generic information about this hazard. I want to detail descriptions of the hazard. Aaron was walking in the car park and slipped on the puddle. Once again, I want to upload some photos relating to this hazard. Into this incident. So here we've got a picture of that person slipping over. And there's a lot of details that we can fill in about an incident, such as the environment, what controls were put in that incident, which people were involved with that incident. So we want to just add one person involved into this incident, which was Aaron Chapman, because he was the person that slipped over. And they weren't a witness, they were directly injured, the work activity they were performing at the time, and the details of the activity. So for every person that was involved in the incident, we fill out a lot of information. Okay, so that's basically it about our incident. So you can see that this is the incident on the grid result. We've got the incident that come down the bottom, and we can do a search and say, search for all lost time injuries. We can see this one here. Now what we want to do is we want to share this incident. And we want to select who to share this incident with. Now what we want to do is we want to share this. We click on share, and we want to share that with a consultant. Now the consultant will be able to see the same incident as well, that this information is not just restricted. All right. That's all. Thank you.
So Aaron, before you give control back, can you just quickly run through on the left what kind of information we do capture in the system? Don't go into them, just go through what we do cover.
Okay, so basically we in relation to a person, their attendance data, qualifications, courses, we also have plants and equipment on site, so people can have their different vehicles, their forklifts, their computers, drug and alcohol tests, health monitoring, what injuries were sustained to a person. There's inspections and audits which can go onto a site. What work activities can be audited. We can audit, consultants can come in and audit their work locations, their work activities. They can come in and audit their asbestos registry, any hazardous substances that they have. We also, under the policies and procedures area, have, for example, a list that they can record standard Australian standards, for example. So if I open up one of these, here's an Australian standard, the national standard for control of major hazard facilities, and we've got the Australian standard document right here that the person can click on, as well as the summary. We've got codes of practice. Here's a list of various codes of practice within the system, for example. first aid in the workplace code of practice. They can record all their documentation in relation to that. Any other general resources in the system as well. And also where the consultant comes in. So this system would be used with a consultant coming onto the side, onto site to put on behalf of their client all of their policies and procedures.
Okay, so this would be like an intranet of like any checklists, any written policy procedures that they might already have, they might already paid a consultant to put together. You've got reams and reams
That's
of paperwork
exactly right.
that could all be put up in here as Word documents or links.
Yeah, so the idea is this is one entire system which basically encompasses all of the WH&S requirements and also works with the consultant for them to be able to put in all of the policies and procedures on behalf of the company.
Okay, we've got about 5 minutes left, so I've got another question here. Does the data collection categories meet the Australian standard? Again, the answer is going to be generally yes. The very specifics, you have to make sure that you're recording enough information yourself. That sort of ties in a couple of other questions here we've got about the policies and procedures. What you saw Aaron show you there, that's just some generic stuff they won't necessarily get out of the box. That's just an example of the kind of stuff the consultant will put in there. So again, we're not making any big bold statements saying just by turning the system on you're fully compliant. No software can do that. It comes down to a consultant really going through the current policy procedures that they would anyway, and then making sure we're relevant, putting them into this system and having the system catch the same kind of data that they'd be catching in spreadsheets and other systems right now. Okay, so we don't offer any assurance about whether it complies, but we offer a framework so that anybody that knows how to create documentation and procedures can use the system to make sure that particular company complies. Okay, so, and we're changing things all the time, so if there are suggestions from people about why doesn't it capture this or capture that, we can add those things almost instantly, so that's not a problem at all. So the system is very fluid in that regard. And again, that's what we need from the safety consultants. We want feedback, we want people using the system and saying, okay, well, everything's great except it doesn't have these 3 things. Well, okay, well maybe we haven't picked them up as a practical things you might need to put in, and a day later they'll be in the system. Okay, so I might just take control back and just finish off. Go through the partner benefits. So you should be seeing my screen. Okay, thanks for that, Aaron. So benefits for introducers. Now, some of our introducers, we've already had this conversation. And we know, they'll know some of these details. Well, let's just go and recap. 100% of the first monthly license fee. So we talked about $9.90 or $19.80, depending on the size of the business. 100% of that first month goes to the introducer, ideally a safety consultant, but could be a solicitor or anybody else. 10% of every subsequent monthly license fee, paid monthly in arrears. You charge your normal rates for implementation, so there should be no technical software implementation required, but there will be obviously customization of what kind of procedures are you going to follow in using the software. The software is just a tool. How is the company going to use the software to comply within their own framework they've already got, and that's up to the consultant. Again, we would imagine there's a fair chunk of a fee that the consultant would charge for an implementation of that. You charge normal rates for monitoring, so we expect that safety consultants would be able to, have some kind of recurring retainer with that client to do monthly monitoring or real-time monitoring, whatever they propose. We'll certainly have some suggestions around that, what we know works with other consulting industries. You charge your normal rates for WHS policies and procedures. So again, some of the feedback we've got is that it's okay, my clients already have procedures. That's not what we're on about. It is, great, bring those procedures across, sell them some more procedures, be paid to write, more policies and procedures for them, and then incorporate them into the software. We're not trying to replace that. We're trying to actually give those things a home and then use a system to automate some of the implementation. And use Safety Hero as a competitive advantage. So, our whole point is that the consultants will have a better business model, make more money, give better value to their clients if they're using a system that helps them do what they do. And which goes without saying, we'll promote you as an approved alliance partner. So the next steps, so for anyone that wants to become a partner, they have to submit an application. We do a few checks first to make sure, we've got to keep a decent quality of people that we're partnering with. If approved, which typically happens within 7 days. If it's going to happen, you receive a formal alliance agreement, which will have all the terms and conditions. No obligation, obviously, on either party till you sign that. And then you begin introducing Safety Hero to your clients and prospects. You can begin introducing before you do the alliance agreement and just make sure that the alliance agreement is all signed before anyone starts paying money to ensure you get the commissions. And you receive ongoing training and support, so we will train the safety consultants at no cost to you on how to do an implementation, what kind of things the software can and can't do, and then obviously we'll work together on an ongoing basis so that we make the software customized where we can, so it's the ease of use from the consultant and the company is the best it can be. You receive your monthly commissions. So I'll go through a couple of other questions we've got here, then we'll wrap up. So can the client take their data if they exit the license? Absolutely. The way that good programs like this are built, it's all in the database. So every bit of data that's captured can be taken out. There's various ways of getting data in and data out. Something Aaron didn't show you, that if you actually have data in spreadsheets at the moment, we actually have an importer where you can basically map the columns of your spreadsheets into different fields within the software. So you might have an employee list of 10,000 people. Simple, we just map the fields in the spreadsheet. At the moment we do that, but we're definitely going to release that functionality so consultants can do that themselves. And taking data out is going to be pretty much the same. You can always dump out data into spreadsheets from different tables, and it's a matter of what you do with it. So if you're using another system, that's fine, as long as the other system can dump data out and you can import it into our system. A bit of manipulation to get it running, and if you ever leave our system, you own your data, you take it with you. And we certainly back up our data regularly, all that kind of stuff that you'd expect, and we don't own your data, you own it. Okay, is there any other questions before we wrap up? So I hope that's covered most of the things there. Again, we're getting a lot of questions about does it do this or that in terms of compliance with Australian standards. I hope I've covered that one off. We do what we can to allow people to be able to comply, but we certainly don't say this is exactly what you've got to do to comply. That's not our business, and that's exactly why when we sell this to end users, where we will make the recommendation to any end user that comes to us that they should be coming to us with a safety consultant. Hence the reason why we'll have a directory of alliance partners ready to go for people that don't have one already. And our whole idea is that we don't want businesses using this without external help, or at least some really good internal help. And just so you know as well, we are releasing a very watered down version for the small businesses that can't afford a safety consultant, which will be around about the $49 mark. We call that Hazard Hero, and it's going to have a very cut down functionality that certainly won't allow them to comply with all the regulations, but it will be a start for people that are using just a basic spreadsheet themselves, and like I said, don't have the money or the inclination to use a consultant. That's not something we're promoting, but it is going to be out there in the ecostream. So if that's all the questions, I'll just give people one last chance to ask any questions. Okay, so thanks for your time. So what we will do, we will send a quick email to everybody online with the application. You don't have to return it, but you've got it there. All you've got to do is fill your details and get it back to us, and then we'll get back to you within 7 days with an alliance agreement. Or if you've been denied, we'll tell you why, and work towards you becoming approved in the future. So thanks for your time. That's all the slides we've got. That's the Safety Hero software. Now, if you need any more information or you want to point clients in any direction towards us, safetyhero.com.au is our website. On there, we've got some demo videos and some introductions. And the best way to introduce is send us an email or just ring us directly on the phone number on the site, and we're quite happy to talk to you or any of your customers. Thanks for your time, everybody.